Anticipation is one of the most underrated skills that not many people actually pay enough attention to. And it applies to so many different situations, whether you are predicting other drivers' movements, avoiding accidents, or just trying to make your drive more smoother and enjoyable. So today, let's break down how to improve your anticipation skills, explore some real-world scenarios where anticipation makes a difference, and overall make you a better, smarter, and safer driver. So first things first, before actually going on the road, we need to maximize our visibility by adjusting our driving seat. We don't want to be sitting too close to the windshield like this, because we will have to move our head too much, limiting our peripheral vision. And if we sit too far away from the steering wheel, we'll have less control over our wheel and our pedals. And as you know, each car has its own visibility weaknesses, meaning that sometimes you cannot see as well as in my car from the back, or sometimes your A-pillars are too thick. It will all depend on your automobile. But our ultimate goal is to increase visibility as much as possible in any car we're driving, so adjust your mirrors properly and we should be good to go. For a full breakdown on how to adjust your seat from zero to finish, just watch my video. So let's actually get on the road and discuss the visibility while you're driving. So let's say we maximized our visibility by adjusting our driving seat. Now we need to maximize our visibility by expanding the radius of our visibility. And let me actually explain what I mean. Some people just focus on the car right in front of them. And our goal should be to see 2 or 3 cars ahead most of the time. And sometimes if you're driving in a sedan like me, you will have an SUV like this blocking your view from the front. And if there's a big SUV in front of you, we'll have to adjust. And we will adjust by leaving just more space between you and them. And the reason why we want to increase our radius and try to see 2 or 3 cars ahead is to actually not react to the car braking in front of us, but to anticipate it. The whole point of anticipation is that we don't want to be reacting to stuff, we want to be anticipating stuff. The additional data we gather by looking 2 or 3 cars ahead will let us know when we need to brake or accelerate. There's a good example. I can see 2 or 3 cars ahead, nobody's braking suddenly, so I don't anticipate myself to brake soon. But then, probably 5 or 6 cars ahead in front of me, we can see that there is a red light, so I will slowly come to a gentle stop. And again, I'm not reacting to this car slowing down, because I knew 5 or 6 cars ahead of us that we're gonna slow down. And the visibility doesn't mean only looking straight. We also want to maximize our peripheral vision. And that is why the seating position is very important. Since I adjusted it perfectly for my car, I don't need to swivel my head too much to actually see my side mirrors. So it actually takes me less time to see all around me. And this is the goal. To be as safe and as smart as possible as a driver, you need to be efficient with your visibility. And again, smart drivers are anticipating or predicting situations on the road, rather than reacting to them. Enough about visibility. Let's actually talk about the real-world applications where anticipation will make you a better driver. And first of all, I wanted to talk about highway driving. Here's the highway on-ramp, and now we're going to be discussing how to actually anticipate stuff to make a great merge onto a highway. So of course, while you're approaching the highway, you try to increase your speed to match it with the speed of the traffic on the highway. And once you actually get close to the merge lane, we need to stop looking for gaps early. So right now you can see I'm analyzing how many cars are in the rightmost lane to let me in. Awesome. We found a good gap and we're in. And you see, I didn't need to actually brake or accelerate too harshly to make a safe merge. This all is a result of anticipating and actually looking for gaps before I got to the merge lane. And I see so many bad drivers approaching the merge lane onto the highway very slowly because they're probably not looking ahead to make sure they are matching the traffic speed. And this is very dangerous. Or sometimes people are going too fast and they don't look for gaps early, and then they swerve aggressively into the rightmost lane onto the highway and create a very dangerous situation again. For example, here, there's an exit, and I knew that some people are gonna slow down to make an exit turn. I anticipate this, and that's why I try to maintain a bigger gap between us, so that when they slow down, I don't have to slow down. As you could have seen, I didn't miss my exit. And sometimes we all do. Please, don't make the last second exits. This is the worst thing you can do on the road, honestly. You know, one time a wise man said, good drivers sometimes miss their exit, but bad drivers never miss their exit. Know that sometimes you are late or you are rushing somewhere, but it doesn't mean you have to risk your life and someone else's life just to make this freaking exit. My next advice is actually very useful both in the city and on the highway. If someone is in your blind spot or you are in someone else's blind spot, you need to avoid the situation as fast as possible. I will merge into the right lane right now, let this Tesla pass me, and right now it's in my blind spot. And in this case, I will accelerate a little bit so that we are not in each other's blind spot, or I will slow down, depending on the situation. And since we are in the city, let's talk about driving in these kind of neighborhoods, which are residential neighborhoods. Please don't blast through residential areas. There could be kids playing around, people walking with their dogs. There's so many things that you cannot anticipate. So just be extra careful in these neighborhoods and try to not go over the speed limit, and don't use your accelerator pedal too much. You can see how narrow those roads are, and you cannot see people behind those big trucks. You know, you just have to be aware of all of this. And the same goes towards the school zones. Don't be reckless at any point while you are in the school zone. I hope that's very obvious for many people. The next thing I wanted to discuss is people who are constantly using their gas and brake, gas and brake, gas and brake whenever they're leaving the intersection. In the city where intersections are not situated too far from each other, there's no point of accelerating harshly and braking harshly every time you are at the intersection. This is a good example. I can see the red light and people are stopping in this intersection. I will not be rushing somewhere, pushing into my throttle too much to brake harshly before this car. There's no point of it, because actually it is less efficient and less safe to drive. And why is it less efficient? It's because people don't use the coasting effect as well as they could have to actually save on fuel and be more efficient of a driver. The problem of the gas brake approach is that you are wasting all of this energy all the time. And again, slow down for emergency vehicles. Just think about it. For you to gain any speed, you will need to burn a particular amount of gas. And every time you stop and reduce this speed, you will need to gain it again and burn fuel again. So if you can maximize your coasting while not stopping and keeping your momentum, you will be more efficient. And remember, driving in the city is not a race. And if you want to actually accelerate spiritedly and have fun, you can use on-ramps or you can just go to a racing track. And don't get me wrong, I love spirited driving and I like having fun behind the wheel, but I feel like in the city where speed limits are kind of low, there is kind of no point of having fun by accelerating harshly from every single green light. It's a good moment for us to actually talk about the left turns. So whenever you're making a left turn, even if it's a green arrow, just make sure to check for pedestrians, cyclists, and runners. Trust me, you don't want to be finding yourself in a situation where you're checked for an upcoming traffic and you turn left and then you see suddenly a pedestrian or a cyclist. It's a very stressful situation which is very easy to avoid just by double checking if there are any pedestrians or cyclists before you actually make a turn. The next thing I wanted to talk about is green lights like this. When they have been on for a while, you don't know when they're going to turn yellow and red. So before you approach a green light like this, just take your foot off the accelerator pedal and just put it onto the brake pedal and be ready to stop at any second. Trust me, I've been in too many situations where I wasn't doing this and I wasn't anticipating the green light to turn yellow very soon. And since I was pushing my throttle pedal, I had to make this maneuver of going through the intersection on the yellow. And sometimes those moments were very stressful because people were trying to turn left and it was very dangerous. Every time I make a right lane change or I'm just turning right on the intersection, I always check for cyclists. This is a good thing to anticipate all the time because cyclists are sometimes very hard to see. And since cyclists are relatively fast, sometimes it's very hard to predict for them to be in any particular moment in your blind spot. Also, on this road, for example, I know that there's lots of places like this where people can turn into a driveway, and I anticipate some drivers not to show their turn signal and just swivel into the right, and I'll make sure to leave enough space for them so that even if they decide to turn into a driveway without showing me the turn signal, I will have actually enough time to react and anticipate it. The anticipation skills come very, very handy when we are driving in different weather conditions, like in the rain right now. And sometimes other drivers neglect the weather conditions and they are not reducing their speed or not increasing the gap between your car and their car. But since we are utilizing our anticipation skills, we'll make sure to account for that and it will be less stressful for us. And one thing to remember about driving in snowy or rainy conditions is that even though you have an all-wheel drive car, yes, you'll be able to accelerate faster and get more grip once you get going, but when it comes to actually stopping, so just because you have an all-wheel drive car, don't think that you have an advantage of stopping faster. All of us will still need the extra space between you and the car in front of you. And sometimes we need to deal with the unpredicted stuff that can happen on the road, such as aggressive drivers or drivers that simply don't follow the rules. And just follow some basic defensive driving skills, such as if someone is tailgating you, you just let them pass. If someone is cutting you off, you don't try to cut them off in return and be aggressive to them as well. The best thing to do in these situations is to actually neglect this driver and just don't engage so that it will actually not ruin your day. Road rage is never worth it, just remember that. So what are actually some costs of choosing not to anticipate stuff and instead react? If you make a sudden stop because the car in front of you made a sudden stop, you have a better chance of being rear-ended by the car behind you. You'll abuse your brakes and be less of an efficient driver. If you don't anticipate the patterns of the traffic and not switch your lanes early enough, you'll get stuck behind other cars, and last-second merges, lane switches, and exit is one of the worst things you can do on the road. You could be a great driver in other areas. You could know how to drive smoothly, how to steer properly, maybe even how to drive on a racetrack. But if you don't develop your anticipation skills, it all goes to waste. I think being a smart and a good driver means not possessing just one skill, but actually having lots of skills and putting them together in motion. It's this combination of different skills working together as a team that makes a good driver. But I actually want to hear from you. What is one anticipation skill or moment that actually have saved you from a very dangerous situation? Leave a comment below and we'll discuss. And since you're watching this video, I assume you're probably new to driving, so you should watch this video that I have made recently about the things I wished I knew when I have just started driving. And as always, stay safe out there, keep enjoying the drive, and I'll see you in the next one.